Rain at 9. Downton Abbey actor Hugh Dancy tells This Morning all about the new movie at 10, and the Scripts frontman Danny O'Donoghue joins Loose Women at 12:30. Now the latest ITV News in the Calendar region with Lara Rostron and Michael Billington.
Good evening, welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
Here are tonight's main stories.
Tributes to Hull Headscarf Revolutionary Yvonne Blenkinsop, who's died at the age of 83.
I was 10 years old when we lost the trawlers in 1968, and I can still vividly remember the meetings and my mum standing the ground and fighting for the fishermen's rights. It's just amazing what my mum stood for and what she achieved.
The fish and chip industry contends with yet more rising prices, with some saying they just won't be able to carry on.
I can't put the prices up for my menu because I'm scared. If I put the prices up, maybe people not come to the shop.
Plans to breathe new life into a famous part of the coalfield skyline in North Nottinghamshire.
And I'll have the best of the weekend's sporting action, including reaction to Barnsley's relegation and news of a superhuman comeback in Rugby League.
Good evening. Tributes have been paid to the last surviving Headscarf Revolutionary, credited for saving thousands of lives at sea, who's died at the age of 83.
Yvonne Blenkinsop, alongside 3 other women, fought for safety improvements on board fishing vessels. It came after the triple trawler tragedy in 1968, which claimed the lives of 58 men.
Yvonne helped collect thousands of signatures calling on the government to put radio operators on ships and improve access to medical facilities. Tonight, her son has been telling our reporter Matt Price how proud he is of his mother's work.
She was one of 4 formidable campaigners, praised with saving countless lives at sea. Yvonne Blenkinsop was the last of a group of women dubbed the Headscarf Revolutionaries, and together they made history. Today, her family are determined her legacy will live on.
It's just amazing what my mum stood for and what she achieved, and I can still vividly remember the meetings and my mum standing the ground fighting for the fishermen's rights. For them to achieve what they did in the space of time, what they did was just totally unbelievable.
How? The nation was shocked by...
It was the triple trawler tragedy of 1968, which saw the loss of 58 crew that spurred on Yvonne Blenkinsop. Together with Lillian Balocca, Christine Jensen and Mary Dines, they fought for tougher laws, including radio operators for all ships and improved safety and first aid equipment on board. But making changes was not without challenges, something the man who wrote a book about their campaign and success knows all about.
These women were up against it. They took on the trawler bosses, they took on the establishment, and they won. They were subjected to casual and brutal misogyny. The sort of modern equivalent would be trolling on Twitter.
It was just absolutely unbelievable.
Away from politics, Yvonne Blenkinsop had another passion, a hugely successful cabaret singer. It was on stage where she felt most at home.
She lit the room up. I mean, parties we used to have when we was kids or when we was younger, and that type of thing bring back just wonderful, wonderful memories.
More recently, in 2018, she was awarded the Freedom of the City of Hull, and now there are renewed calls for a permanent memorial.
What we need is this statue there in the city centre, dedicated to all 4 of the Headscarf Revolutionaries, so people can walk past, remember them and look at them. You can see whenever people walk past the statue, they point, they look, they ask who it is. I want people to be having those conversations about Yvonne and the other Headscarf Revolutionaries right into the future.
Those who really knew Yvonne Blenkinsop describe how she helped to transform the fishing industry's safety record. They talk of her drive, her true Yorkshire grit, and her campaigning, which it's thought has saved thousands of lives at sea. Tonight, the flag at the city's Guildhall flies at half-mast in her honour. Yvonne Blenkinsop was 83.
How will I remember my mum? Fondly, with love. She was my rock, and always will be.
Yvonne Blenkinsop's son Brian ending that report from Matt Price. Well, next tonight, to the crisis facing one of the nation's favourite takeaways, fish and chips, which contributes more than £1 billion a year to the UK economy.
Earlier this year, Calendar reported that a third of fish and chip shops in our region could go bust due to soaring costs.
Well, that was before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which has led to even higher prices for fish and oil. Now many businesses are on the brink of closing down or selling up. Adam Fowler reports.
We are a nation of fish and chip lovers, but the national dish is under threat like never before.
I love my fish and chip shop. I don't want to close.
This chippy in Scunthorpe is struggling. Relying on online sales, some days it can take as little as £30 in cash. The cost of cod, haddock, batter and mushy peas was already soaring when Calendar first covered this story back in February. Since then, the war in Ukraine has affected the cost of fish and oil too.
Everything is not oil, is food as well, all frozen stuff. Sausages, chicken fillet, burgers, everything going up. Every time we go and cash and carry and we see different prices, we get disappointed with that.
Fish has gone up from £140 per 18 kilograms to £270 since October. Sunflower oil has risen from £30 to £44 for 20 litres in the last 3 weeks and will soon run out because of the war in Ukraine. While sustainable palm oil has gone up from £14 to £30 for 12.5 kilograms.
I'm scared. If I put the prices up, maybe people not come to the shop. We can't afford it. Maybe in the end we have to close. If we got no choice, if the price is gone like £50 for 20 litres, we can't afford it.
Earlier, Andrew Crook from the British Takeaway Foundation and the National Federation of Fish Fryers met with the Minister for Small Businesses to discuss help for the sector.
Obviously, they can't control market forces, but they might be able to help in different ways, help us promote different species, because consumers are usually quite resistant to changing from cod or haddock or whatever they used to. And I think now maybe going forward, we need to be a bit more adventurous. And I think government will probably have to work with my organisation to promote different species and promote some of the domestic catch as well. So we've got some great seafood around this island that we live on, which is underutilised and exported.
Some fish and chip shops have energy bills 5 times higher than they were last year. They're dealing with a rise in national insurance and VAT returned to 20% this month for businesses, despite calls for the rise to be scrapped. The government said, "We've always been clear that the lower rate of VAT was a temporary measure, and it's right our support reflects the fact the economy has reopened." With many fish and chip shops already considering selling up, those in the industry say action is needed now if fish and chips are to be there in the future. Adam Fowler, ITV News.
That's made me hungry seeing those fish and chips.
Indeed, yes.
Still to come on the programme this evening. Gold Rush. We're catching up with the RAF veteran from Lincoln who's returned from the Invictus Games with quite the medal haul.
And it's been a relatively quiet start to the week weather-wise, just a few showers to contend with, but will the fairly quiet weather last? I'll be back later with all the details.
Well, next tonight, with utility bills hitting record highs, more and more of us are looking to the sun to power our homes. In fact, since the government scrapped VAT on solar panels last month, Google searches for energy-efficient measures have increased by as much as 66%.
But industry experts say it still doesn't go far enough, as greener technology isn't truly affordable for the majority of homes. Nick Smith has been hearing from one Sheffield company, though, which says interest in solar panels has really been hotting up.
Britain currently has the oldest housing stock in Europe. More than 12 million homes built before the Second World War, which left untouched are notorious for high energy costs and a high carbon footprint. But it is possible to retrofit them so they're much more efficient. This 150-year-old terraced property has gone the whole hog. With an air-to-air heat pump, solar thermal panels for warming water and insulation which had to be installed on top of the existing internal walls.
It overhangs, so you can see from my hand that it's overlapping that much. So I lost that much space.
For Rose Lewis, who lives here, she says overall it was worthwhile, but all the work came at a considerable cost.
It was not easy. I didn't realise quite how disruptive it would be. And it is possible that had I known, I wouldn't have done it. But having done it, I am so pleased. I'm so glad. It probably won't reduce my bills because of the price going up so much, but I don't think I'm going to have to pay more.
Renewable energy products have recently received a nice discount, as the Chancellor used his spring statement to call on homeowners to join the push to cut the reliance on fossil fuels.
So I can announce for the next 5 years, homeowners having materials like solar panels, heat pumps or insulation installed will no longer pay 5% VAT, they will pay 0.
A month on from that announcement, and Google search data shows interest in solar panels, for instance, has jumped by 2/3. Navitas is a firm which installs solar technology based in Sheffield, and their managing director says there's been a noticeable uptick in orders.
There has been a sharp increase in interest in our industry, although I think it's fair to say that most of this is because of the increase in cost of electricity that's gone up dramatically in the last few months, and this is only expected to rise even further. It's been warned it's coming again in October, and this volatility is causing a lot of distress to people, so they're looking at ways that they can secure their outgoings.
While the VAT cut has been labelled a welcome start by sustainable energy experts, the cost of installation still remains far out of reach for many homeowners.
We need to have a higher sort of incentives to allow people to go forward with implementing solar panels and heat pumps in their housing. Cutting VAT will not do that because the cost is very high, 20,000 for example for a typical heat pump, and also about 8,000 for solar panels. Heat is so important for us in the UK. About 20% of our emissions, attacking that high percentage, refurbishing buildings and by having heat pumps, so going away from gas into electricity is very, very important.
Well, the government says it has committed £6.6 billion into improving energy efficiency, but there are still serious questions over whether that will be enough to turn millions of our older properties into homes fit for a greener future. Nick Smith, ITV News.
So we saw in that package some rather expensive ways of saving energy with heat pumps and solar panels. But what about things that we can all do that won't break the bank or require a full home makeover? Well, earlier I spoke to Stu Horn from the Energy Saving Trust, who gave me some useful tips and advice.
Our 3 top energy saving tips are, first of all, to turn your devices off standby in the home. So turn your devices off for an average family home with 3 people in it. That could save £55 a year. So that's a really, really important one to be doing. It's something that everybody can do. Our second top tip, that's to use less water in the home. So that could mean having swapping out a bath for a shower once a week and showering less frequently. That could save £35 per person per year. But also then using your appliances differently. So, for example, when you put the washing machine on, putting it on at 30 degrees centigrade and doing 1 less wash a week, and making sure the dishwasher's full when you turn it on, and doing using the dishwasher less frequently as well.
Maybe if you were to look at all of them, what would you say this is the one thing that you really must do? Because this is going to be the best one. You're going to save the most energy, you're going to save the most money as well.
So an average family 3-bedroom home is looking at about a £740 increase from in April on their energy costs, which is really big. Those top 3 measures would save about £200. But if there's one extra thing that people can do, it's to draft-proof their home. So you can pay a professional to do that. A 3-bedroom home that will cost about £240 and save about £95 a year. But actually, you can do lots of these measures yourself. So you can get the materials from a DIY shop. You can go around and find the gaps between doors and windows and fill those in using strips of material or foam fillers. And that's a very effective way to save money around a home.
And what about the good old-fashioned draft excluder? Do you think they're going to make a comeback?
Well, draft excluders are really important. Drafts do help, combating drafts helps to minimise energy costs. One of the best ones is a chimney draft excluder that costs about £20, but can save quite a significant amount on your energy costs.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So in your house then, I imagine that you've taken lots of these measures. What have you done that you would say is the best thing?
Well, I've done draft proofing, so I've got a chimney excluder and I've draft proofed my windows. I live in a very leaky old Victorian house, so I've had to draft proof the windows and the keyhole and the letterbox on my door. So doing all of those things really helped keep the cold winds out during the winter.
OK, Stu Horn, thank you very much for all those top tips there. I'm sure we'll be looking into doing them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Some good advice there. OK, the ITV Evening News continues at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening with Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, 4 people are stabbed to death at a house in South London. Police describe the attack as deeply shocking. A man in his 20s has been arrested on suspicion of murder. We will have the latest. Too little, too late. The government steps in to help with shortages of HRT, but only after women have gone to desperate lengths to get it. A special report into the shocking rise in children being groomed and abused online. And
I've come into possession of a villa in the south of France.
We catch up with the cast of Downton Abbey as the show heads abroad and into a new era. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Thanks, Mary. Now, time for the sport, and it's not looking good for Barnsley, is it, Jonathan?
Small businesses and local teams, the heart of our communities. eBay sponsors ITV Regional Sport Reports.
Yeah, difficult few days for Barnsley. I mean, relegation, and now they've lost their manager.
Yes, that's right. There's never a dull day in Barnsley. They've been through 7 managers in little more than 4 years, and now they're set to return to the 3rd tier of English football after 3 seasons in the Championship. Their 2-1 defeat to high-flying Huddersfield Town was the final nail in the Tykes' coffin. It leaves them 11 points from safety with just 3 games to play, while it guarantees the Terriers at least a playoff spot. And for people in Barnsley Town Centre today, there haven't been many positives to take from this season.
Well, I knew it would come in as soon as the new owners took over, because to me they just didn't seem to listen to anybody.
They should have not have changed as many managers and stuck with the one that were the best.
You don't really care?
No, not really.
I'm the kind of guy that it's like there's always another season.
I'm absolutely devastated. And the thing is that from top to bottom, it needs a big shake-up.
Well, that shake-up's already begun. This man, the head coach Poya Asbaji, and his assistant Ferran Sibilia left the club by mutual consent yesterday. The Swede only took the job in November following Barnsley's terrible start to the season under Marcus Schopp. Club bosses thanked the duo for their hard work and professionalism during a difficult time, but said their search for a new head coach has already started. On the field, they're back in action against Blackpool tomorrow night at Oakwell. Former Tykes midfielder and under-23s coach Martin Devaney will take temporary charge for the rest of the season.
But it wasn't all bad news for our football clubs this weekend, was it? I mean, we had Sheffield United could be joining Huddersfield in the playoffs?
That's right. The Blades took a massive step towards securing a top 6 spot, while 2 of their playoff rivals dropped points. Paul Heckingbottom's men overcame Cardiff thanks to Ilman Ndai's second-half header, which puts them 6th, 3 points clear of Millwall. 2 goals from Keane Lewis Potter, including this tidy finish, helped Hull to a 3-0 win over Reading. In League One, Rotherham came from behind to beat Oxford 2-1. Dan Barley's penalty keeps them second with 2 games to go. Meanwhile, Doncaster extended their stay in the 3rd tier by beating Burton, but they're still all but relegated. Sheffield Wednesday had a goal disallowed as their playoff rivals as they lost to their playoff rivals Wycombe, should I say, while Lincoln lost to Accrington. And in League Two, there were wins for Mansfield, Harrogate and Bradford. Mansfield's victory over Crawley puts them up to 6th in the playoffs. Some rugby league now, and it was a double celebration for Hull FC as they put Catalan Dragons to the sword on a landmark night for Danny Houghton. The veteran hooker who set up Chris Satte's decisive try made his 400th appearance for the Black and Whites and was named man of the match in a 14-8 victory. Their city rivals Hull KR won their 6th game on the bounce as well. Kane Lynette scoring 2 tries in a 32-10 win over Wakefield. And finally from me, former Super League star Jansen Turgot's remarkable recovery from a life-threatening fall has continued with an appearance at Australia's SCG. The 26-year-old, seen charging forward here, played for his national side Turkey in their defeat to the Australian Defence Forces as part of the Anzac Day remembrance celebrations. He played 30 matches for Hull FC before the fall in 2019, in which he broke his pelvis, both legs and every bone in his face. What a comeback that is.
Yeah, amazing to see Jansen actually performing so fantastically well, given the injuries that he sustained.
It's remarkable, absolutely remarkable.
Johnny, thank you. Well, next, a mum of one from Lincoln who thought she'd never do sports again after suffering an ankle injury has arrived back in the UK after winning not 1, not 2, but 3 golds and a bronze at the Invictus Games.
Yes, Lucy Holt has not only come home a champion, but one of her golds came after she changed disciplines just 1 hour before competing.
Yes, the RAF veteran trained for 30 months to compete in the COVID-delayed Games and now has the Paralympics in her sight. A little earlier I spoke to her and started by asking how she felt about that incredible achievement.
Completely overwhelming. I think going out there with an open mind and just hoping to come back with PBs was kind of my first aspect, and to kind of come back with all these 3 golds and 1 bronze was just completely amazing. On the first day I was meant to be competing in shot put, but due to being the only person in my event, it was classed as a non-medalling event, and I didn't seem like it felt right to kind of compete on my own, considering I'd put 30 months of training into this. So I changed my sport and went to discus instead, and I was completely shocked to come away with the gold, and it was just completely overwhelming. And then managed to get a couple of days rest before going into the rowing programme and into the rowing kind of stadium. And again, I didn't really know what the standard was going to be out there, and to come away with the gold for the 4-minute and the 1-minute was just absolutely fantastic. And then with the basketball as well, we were really pleased to come away with the bronze medal.
Well, I think one of the things that's made your achievements all the more remarkable is the fact that you've worked for United Lincolnshire Hospitals Trust throughout the pandemic. I mean, how have you managed to fit in all the training that you've needed to do?
Yeah, no, it's been difficult. But I've got a really supportive family, so I've gone to work and then I've come home and trained at home throughout the whole pandemic and just kind of kept going that way.
You had a bit of a brush with the royals. In fact, you've got a royal in a photograph stood either side of you. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so we went for brunch at the British Embassy over in the Netherlands. We were invited across there, and then to our surprise and amazement, Prince Harry and the Duchess Meghan Markle arrived. And I was lucky enough to kind of ask for a little photo of them both, and they were very supportive of this. So it was great to kind of have them alongside us and support us throughout the whole Games.
Well, I understand you've also got your sights set on the Paralympics now as well.
Yeah, so I'm part of the GB Paralympic talent pathway, and hopefully that's where I'll be heading soon. So training kind of steps back up again towards the end of this week. So no rest for me, straight on to training.
Fantastic. Well, Lucy, huge congratulations. Well done and best of luck for the future.
Thank you ever so much.
That's pretty good going, isn't it? 3 golds, a bronze and a photo with Harry and Meghan.
No, she's almost got too much around her neck with all of those medals.
Yeah, she must have so much pain in her neck from carrying all the weight.
Yeah. OK, so it's one of the names synonymous with coal mining in our region, but it's now almost 2 decades, believe it or not, since Clipstone Colliery stopped production.
But developers are now hoping to breathe new life into the famous 200-foot tall Headstocks, which dominated the skyline for miles around, transforming them into a leisure complex and museum. Peter Bean has the story.
They've been an iconic feature of the Nottinghamshire skyline for decades, a monument to the county's mining past. Now the future of Clipstone Headstocks lies in the hands of this man. Stuart Mills, a property developer from Mansfield, bought the Grade 2 listed building last year. His vision, to turn it into a venue for sport, leisure and business.
Everyone knows the Headstocks. You tell them where you're working, they all know where they are. You can see them for miles around. In fact, from the top, you can see Lincoln Cathedral on a clear day. I was impressed with the engineering and the heritage. The history of the place is fantastic, so it's something we want to retain, and it's a nod to the miners, really.
There are plans to turn this cavernous space into a climbing wall. Another part of the building could become a cafe, and there's interest in turning this area into a boxing academy. There'd also be a mining museum made up of artefacts left after the pit closed in 2003. I'm now stood right underneath the northern headstock, and it's here that the miners would have gone to and from the coalface. And to get there, they would have travelled inside this lift cage that's now lying on its side. 70 miners would have travelled in that at one time at a speed of 27 miles per hour. Clipston Colliery opened in 1922 and could produce 1 million tonnes of coal a year.
Got the lamp here, which we used to wear around our belts, obviously, to light it up.
Alan Dawson worked down the pit for 16 years. Returning for the first time, he told me he's pleased the site's being preserved for the future.
My very psyche is very just deep-rooted in all of this, you know, because I was a coal miner, my dad was a coal miner. I want to bring my granddaughter here and I want to show her the Headstocks. This place, well, underground probably made me the man, you know, who I am now.
To help fund the restoration, Stuart stages events on site, like this pop-up cinema. It's been here for 100 years, this building. Can you see this being here for another 100 years?
I would hope so, yeah. I mean, the staircases on the Headstocks are crumbling, so they're very dangerous, but the main superstructures are really solid. I suspect they'll still be here in 100 years, yes.
It will take time, but one day this industrial relic could again be the hub of the community. The sky's the limit. Peter Bean, ITV News, Nottinghamshire.
What amazing pictures from up at the top there, and amazing to think actually that from the top of that you can see Lincoln Cathedral off in the distance.
Yeah, and what I love is that they're taking all the history of coal mining and they're keeping that and embracing it, but they're also using it for something new and for something for future generations.
Yeah, new life into something that's been there for such a long time and such a big part of the community. Well, you can get more on this story and all of the rest of the day's news on our website, itv.com/calendar.
Well, I bet you had a good view of the clouds up there.
For sure.
So let's have a catch up with Pip and see what the weather forecast is, shall we?
Expect a heavy downpour. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Good evening. It's been a relatively quiet start to the week weather-wise. A few showers around today, but over the next few days we're looking at largely dry conditions, quite cloudy at times, but all of us managing to find some bright or sunny spells. The nights, though, will be on the chilly side throughout. So what's going on? Well, high pressure currently sits to the north of the UK, and over the coming days it will sink its way southwards, becoming increasingly well established across the UK and maintaining largely settled conditions throughout. And that's certainly the case out there at the moment. So any daytime showers have now just about cleared away. We're looking at dry and fairly clear conditions overnight tonight, and underneath those clear skies temperatures will take a bit of a tumble all round. So towns and cities probably hovering between around 3 and 5 Celsius for the most part, but I suspect rural spots getting a bit closer to freezing, that in turn potentially giving rise to a few mist patches and perhaps a little frost on the ground in places by the end of the night as well. Tomorrow morning then, quite a chilly start for some of us, but a bright start. I think the best of the sunshine will be first thing. As the day wears on, we'll start to drag in more in the way of cloud on the northeasterly breeze. And much like today, it could be thick enough in places to give 1 or 2 showery outbreaks. But I think for much of the region, for much of the day, it should be dry. Temperature's a bit of a struggle though. I think a little lower than today's valleys underneath all that cloud. Highs tomorrow probably 11, 12, perhaps locally 13 Celsius, and always feeling fresher on the coast with onshore breezes here. Beyond that, we hold on to a lot more in the way of dry weather, cloud coming and going, some sunny spells to be found, winds easing down and temperatures by day slowly on the rise.
TUI Blue Hotels sponsor ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Thanks, Pip. That's it from us. I'll be back with the late news at 10:30 this evening.
National and international stories are next with Mary Nightingale.
But for now, from the team here on Calendar, thanks very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye for now.